Madam President, there was another set of numbers that was released last Friday that testifies to good news, and America needs it. It testifies to the resilience of the American people and the American spirit. Many economists had braced for a disastrous January jobs report. The most optimistic among them predicted the U.S. economy might grow by 150,000 or maybe 250,000 jobs last month. Some warned that it could show massive job losses. Here's what we learned. Despite the Omicron surge and the global supply chain shortages, U.S. employers added 467,000 new jobs last month. 467,000. On top of that, Bureau of Labor Statistics shows us the economy added 700,000 more jobs in November and December than we initially calculated. All told, the U.S. economy has added 6.6 million jobs in the last year, the strongest first-year job gain of any president in history. When Joe Biden took over the office a little over a year ago, he inherited one of the weakest and fraught economies in generations. At the start of the pandemic, the U.S. unemployment rate spiked to 14.7%. Last February, the Congressional Budget Office forecast that the U.S. would not see 3.9% unemployment for another 5 years. The unemployment rate now is actually 4%. America's economic recovery is breaking records. The U.S. was the first country in the G7 to recover all of its GDP lost by the pandemic. Average wages were up 5.7% last month from a year ago. The increases were not all at the top. Workers in the middle and lower rungs of the economy earn more too. I have to say, as important as that is, we all know that people working in this economy are also facing inflation, higher prices. Whether it's for gasoline or groceries, they're finding it more expensive to meet the basic necessities of life. And although this is good news, that is bad news that we have to address and should address on a bipartisan basis. The progress that we made was not inevitable. It was a product of good, old-fashioned American ingenuity. It's also the result of bold and decisive economic decisions by the Biden administration. The American Rescue Plan, which Congress passed without the support of a single Republican member of Congress, all Democrats, all the way, broke the grip of the pandemic on our economy. We were able to get shots in arms, help small businesses stay afloat, and rush emergency assistance to people who had lost jobs or seen their hours cut drastically. That emergency help worked in Illinois, and it worked all over this country. We also passed a bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And let me remind those who follow it, if you're wondering about the infrastructure bill passed by the Trump administration, let me put your concern to rest. There was no bill. There was no legislation. There was no infrastructure plan, despite President Trump's repeated promises to deliver one. He walked away from the table, and I was in the room when he did. Wouldn't even negotiate it. We haven't fixed all the weaknesses in our economy. The jobless rate among black workers is still twice that of white workers. Unemployment among teens and young adults is still too high. Research from the nation's Women's Law Center shows that while men have reoccupied all job losses since the pandemic started, there are nearly 1.1 million fewer women in the workforce. Daycare is part of that calculation, I might add. If we want to reach our full economic potential, we need to help families find affordable, quality daycare. And we have to address the issue of inflation nonstop. Last year, for the first time in more than 2 decades, America's economy grew faster than China. That's incredible. Let's keep that streak going by passing USICA, the Bipartisan U.S. Innovation and Competition Act. We need to promote products made in the United States by Americans and purchased in the United States. We passed it in the Senate last June by a vote of 2-1. The House passed its version last Friday. Let's go to conference and get this bill into law. Negotiate in good faith, and I believe we can do that. I want to thank Leader Schumer and Senator Young, a Republican of Indiana, for their leadership. This will boost competitiveness with China and help reindustrialize America, make investments in manufacturing and research, provide seed money to create good new jobs. Importantly, it includes $52 million for researching, designing, and manufacturing semiconductor chips, what Senator Cantwell, chair of the Commerce Committee, calls the oil of the 21st century. Let's agree to make those chips here in America and not be dependent on importing them from China. USICA also allows for new sanctions against China for human rights violation. We can stand up for American workers and American values. Madam President, I yield the floor. I suggest the absence of quorum.